Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ballislife. I'm Kris here with Zach Noble and Albert Nguyen. Excited for part two of our buy or sell mid-season series. Yesterday, we recorded the Western Conference. Today, we're doing the Eastern Conference. Folks, the concept is simple. We're going to go from the 10 seed to the 1 seed. We're sparing you the time with the gutter of each conference. And we're just going to look at if we're buying, if we're believers, or if we're selling, we're skeptics of these teams. The lens is kind of through a contender's lens, but it's understood with the lower teams that none of those are really going to be contenders in the Eastern Conference. In the West, it's a different story because you got Steph Curry and the Warriors at one of the bottom seeds. But here in the East, the team to start with, fellas, is the Atlanta Hawks. They're at 26 and 32. And I can tell you guys right now, they're 5-5 in their last 10 games, and there's something like 700 and 700 in their last 1,400 games. They are mid for the rest of this season. Trae Young surgery. I mean, are you guys buying or selling this team? I feel like stock is at an all-time low. Zach, I want to start with you.
Listen, I mean, I'm going to just straight up say I'm buying their offense, and I always have. Like, they're top 5 offense. Like, and I believe it when I see it. Quinn Snyder's sets are fine. They look good together. And I've always thought it's overrated, the talk of splitting everybody up drastically. If DeJounte Murray wanted out, get him out. But it didn't seem too definitive to me. And he plays well, even when there's a lot of scrutiny around him. The defense is a joke. And DeJounte Murray needs to be the defender that they acquired if they're ever going to be the team I thought they could be, which they are very far away from, which is crazy. They're literally a 29th ranked defense. Okay. That's as bad as it gets. And so I can't even buy these guys the long term. There might be 2 or 3 guys in this entire team that I like as longtime starters. They really need to gut this entire roster again. If you want to go Trae or DeJounte, pick your poison. I don't care. You're going to get a way bigger haul for Trae. I'm okay to have those conversations. I personally wouldn't get rid of Trae because I think he's very, very good. And he's the main bulk of that top 5 offense. I think get a new front office first before you do this revamp. I think they screwed this one up.
So you're selling all your stock and saying you want to buy in once they start rebuilding.
Yes, but I'd like to keep Quinn Snyder.
All right.
I mean, I just don't think they have the defensive pieces. So I don't think that's Quinn Snyder's problem either.
Al, where you at?
Man, I've been a buyer for this team for the last, I would say 3 to 4 years. Like each year heading into the season, I'm like, man, I like the pieces. DeAndre Hunter, all these flexible guys. When they traded for DeJounte, it was somewhat of an overpay at the time, but now looking back on the market, it was a pretty good trade. But he didn't really bring that much defensive flexibility. So I am gonna do a complete 180. I'm selling everything. I disagree with Zach. I think they need to blow this up.
That's
Not
exactly what I
only
said,
are
though.
they Oh, okay. Well, I think they Quinn Snyder included then. Quinn Snyder included, front office included, Trae included, all of it included because right now they're stuck in the wheel of mediocrity. This is the Jason Garrett Dallas Cowboys years for 10 years. And being a part of that was not fun. I don't think Atlanta should continue with Trae. And I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He is what he is. He has a lot of strengths to go along with a few cons, but maybe it just doesn't fit with Atlanta. So I say blow it up. Players, front office, coaches, everything.
I just think the problem you run into with that is they're not going to get the worth for a lot of the guys they have. So it's figuring out. Yeah, I mean, so you got to take the first round picks where you can. I mean, Trae, I agree. Trae is the most valuable piece by a lot, so that's probably smart. But it's tough to lose a guy like DeJounte Murray in Atlanta where it hasn't been a destination for anybody. And I feel like he's a vibe of that city. I think he can
which sucks, right? Because the city is great. The culture there is all basketball. It should be a destination town because not only is it good from a basketball fan standpoint, but nightlife, right? Nightlife is important for kids these days, and it's definitely up there in the top, upper echelon in the NBA. So it should be a destination for basketball, and I think maybe it's not Trey, maybe it's not Quinn, but it's a combination of everything there as a team that makes people not want to play there. Chris.
Yeah, I think the clutch sports pairing of Trey and DeJounte was political more so than, on court based. I think the concept in theory was, oh well, Trey offense and DeJounte defense, yin yang, great pairing, whatever. Not how it works, man. And DeJounte Murray was a fantastic defender when guys like Kawhi Leonard were the lead offensive option on his team. When he's the lead offensive option, he's a really good jack of all trades kind of guard. I really do think so. He is good,
Yeah.
but move him to a team like Orlando where you run the offense through Paolo and Franz, and DeJounte hits threes and cuts and is aggressive off the ball. Now, that's a fun idea, right? Why can't that work with Trey Young? Okay, I think you got to look elsewhere on this team. I think the depth is lacking besides Bogdan Bogdanovic. I think the fact that, AJ Griffin doesn't play is weird and something that could be resolved. Maybe trade him for a
Been
first
so
round pick
good. He's been
first round
so
pick
good
this summer.
in the G League.
Like, I don't know what the idea is with him, but for me personally, I think the Hawks have some stuff to figure out. Clint Capella, they moved off of Collins finally, but they did it too late, so they didn't get much back for him. They're about to make the same mistake with Capella to open up minutes for a Kungwu, who arguably might not be better or much better. So, I like a Kungwu. I really liked him in that draft cycle, but for me with the Hawks, I think they have to move. So I would say if you want them to tear it down, well, they've waited so long. They've still got pieces that are worth building around. Obviously, you sell for the rest of this season, but I think if a smart GM gets in there, they can build this team up snazzily and really quickly
Yeah.
around Trey and DeJounte. I don't think you need to move one. I don't think we're in a situation where one has to go. If the Spurs or some team like that offers you a Hall's Hall for Trey Young, okay, then go in that direction and pivot, right? But it has to be an offer that
That'd be
knocks you
funny.
off your
That'd be funny if they
socks.
give up. That'd be funny if they give up DeJounte and then pick up Trey 2 years later.
That would be
That's how
epic.
the
I
NBA
really
works,
do
man.
think we should do. I really do think we should do a deep dive on Atlanta in general, right? Because I think it's so
I like that. We'll
interesting.
get
Yeah, it's like it's a team, a city, a culture that should be so much better. I think
Mm.
we should just leave it
Even
at
the Wizards too, but they're 9-49. They're at that rebuilding stage already. They're at that rock bottom stage. Kyle Kuzma said, "It's you don't want to become that team that loses to Detroit." Now both teams are 9-49, so there's that. But anyway, we're gonna go a notch up in the standings. Number 9, the Chicago Bulls. We've talked about them on this show this season. They're 27-31. 5-5 in their last 10. This is a team that's 15-14 at home. All right. But they're 12-17 on the road. Zach, we're going to start with you again. Just keep it going in that rotation. The Bulls, man, you buying or selling?
I love how optimistic you sounded when you said 15-14 at home. That's such a sexy record. Sounds like the 750 and 750 Atlanta Hawks right behind them in the last 1,500 games. But the Bulls had the worst 3-point shooting game in NBA history last night for one game, 6.9%. So that's one game I know, but that just sums up who they are. It's where they belong. I'm so over talking about the Bulls and having them blow it up. And I'm going to leave it at this because I'm the least confident in the Chicago Bulls as a franchise moving forward than even like the Charlotte Hornets. The Bulls are dead last for me in confidence. So going to leave you at that. Selling all of it.
All right, Albert, I know you want them to tear it down, but rest of the
Yeah,
season, you've got to be selling, right?
I'm a seller with a caveat moving forward if they get rid of Zach LaVine. I think this is a pretty good team, and we
That's
saw
it?
it this year. Yeah, we saw it this year. They're just better without Zach LaVine, and
But they
it's
haven't
not
had
like he's
Zach
a
LaVine
bad.
right now.
There's just like so much more to like team basketball than individual talent, right? Zach LaVine's a great talent, and I think he could hopefully find his fit and his niche somewhere in the NBA, but it's not in Chicago. It might not be as a number one or number two. He maybe has to settle for being the number three guy on the team. Chicago, I would sell with the caveat they move Zach LaVine. I think they could be pretty good. I don't know if they'll be a playoff team next year, but definitely sell them for the rest of the year.
For me with the Bulls, it's easy. I think they're in a nice position to move pieces like Caruso and then stay like mildly competitive with Vucevic on that fun new deal they got him on. But all in all, we know this is not an actually competitive team. They should use guys like Vucevic to foster a nice development environment for young players that they bring in. I mean, think about this team's recent drafting history. Literally, who can you even name? Yo, Justin Lewis in the second round of last year. Like, they already waived him. No, this team is a mess when it comes to drafting and bringing in young talent on rookie cycles. So, for
I
me
love Ayo.
personally,
I love
it
Ayo though.
was overrated from the jump, and now he's kind of settling in as like what he is, which is a fun bench guard, but that's not moving a needle on a rebuild, man. So you can keep him around, you can pay him on a nice deal that you think will be a steal going forward, and keep him around, but you don't build a franchise around a guy like that. He's not one of your top three young players going forward. So you hope he's not, right? So for me, Chicago should tear it all down, but keep guys like Vucevic around. Trade a DeRozan, trade a Caruso, and let young players get there. Or even if you want DeRozan to get the shots up, if you draft ancillary talents, but if you draft a shot creator, let him do the work. Yeah, sell Chicago. It's quick and easy for me.
Ayo, Kobe. That's about it.
Hmm.
Pat
Maybe
Williams.
DeMar and Vooch, just because you're not going to get anything for him. So if you can keep DeMar on a really easy deal, his value's worth way more keeping him.
I
Everybody else.
would, I would, I'd move DeMar. I would move DeMar if you get a shot creator that's young. If you
And
don't,
DeMar should want to move.
if
DeMar
you
should want to move himself.
Oh, I agree.
if you don't get a young shot creator, someone's got to take the shots. So why not? Anyway, let's talk about needing a shot creator. The Orlando Magic are next up here at number 8. They are 33-26. They're 13 and a half games back, 19-8 at home, and 7-3 in their last 10. Zach, where you at on the Orlando Magic? Orlando Magic. Orlando
Uh,
Magic.
so
Uh,
Paolo, I'm buying everything him. That's for sure. I'm all in on him and Franz, and that's almost enough. I still need 2 more starters, really. Severely need a point guard yet. Been saying it all year. Can't buy this team until they have a point guard. But I mean, I'm buying they have a 1 and a 2 that can win a championship, I think. The point guard could be the third guy. That's fine. But I don't really like long term for like championship upside anybody else on this team. Like good value contracts if you can pull it off. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good pieces to have if the money's right. But that's who I'm moving on with. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's so hard for me to say all that and then still sell this team long term, but that point guard, I only liking 2 players really long term championship window. And it's like, when's the last guy they traded for that's big time? They traded to get Franz, right? For a pick. Or what was the Franz deal? Was that part of Vooch?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that was solid. I mean, they got a great pick, but they got lucky by hitting on him. So can you really even
Well,
count that?
they got 2 firsts from the Vucevic deal. That was a great deal for them.
Yes, once they got those picks and they turned out to be who they were. But I'm just saying,
You're
like,
saying they haven't acquired a player
right.
and a
Yeah.
pick.
To
player
bank on
that
Trey
trade, yeah.
Young or DeJounte Murray
Franz
coming
is
there?
crazy good. Franz might be their best player this season. That's just a legitimate
All
conversation.
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah. I think all three of us are high on Franz. If I could jump in, Zach, I would say
I'll just
I'm a
finish.
buyer on this team.
Selling.
Go ahead.
I'm selling till they bring in somebody. There
Okay.
you go.
Okay.
Al.
Yeah, I'm buying for such a young team. They have the defensive fundamentals there. You don't see many young teams play defense. They're all about offense, right? All about getting their shots, getting their buckets, getting paid. But Orlando, I believe, is adjusted defense rating top 10 in the league, which is super impressive. I think they're a little ahead of their schedule. 33 and 26 is not bad. And that's going through a couple cold spells there in the beginning of the season. They're 7-3 in their last 10. I think they're going to be a pretty tough out in the playoffs. I know they're going to have to play Boston or Milwaukee or maybe in Cleveland because Cleveland's been red hot, but I don't think they're going to get swept by any means. I think they're going to get at least one game at home, and I think they're going to be competitive in one game on the road. So I think they're a pretty good team. I think they're ahead of schedule, and I'm buying them long term just because of Franz and Paolo.
Totally fair. I would say for the rest of this season, I'm selling them. I was selling them earlier in the season. I thought, being the fourth seed early on was a little much for them. I thought it was a hot start from a team that came out hungry. But I figured it would even out, and it has. For this Orlando team, yeah, they're strong. They're physical. They're young. They're fun. They're tough defensively, but maybe swapping out like Fultz and someone else for an upgrade at the guard spot or just a creator, right? Something else going on offensively would give them the lineup versatility that you need to make some noise in the playoffs on top of defense. So for me with Orlando, I'm going to sell for the rest of this year, but I'm super in going forward. Maybe you take Jet Howard and you take Markelle Fultz and you take draft capital and you move them for someone that could be impactful for you at the guard spot. DeJounte Murray would be really cool. So we'll
Trey
see
Young
how
would be
that.
way cooler.
Way
Trey
cooler.
Young makes his team a contender of contenders. Like put him next to Jalen Suggs, but then again, maybe he starts not playing defense because they're scoring so much. Like DeJounte Murray. I want
The
to.
Trey Young effect.
I think
If you're not gonna
Trey
try, I'm not gonna try.
Right, exactly. There we go.
Trey Suggs, Franz, Paolo, and a 5 sounds awesome. I want to keep this thing moving though because we
Real
have
quick, what do you think Jalen Suggs is gonna make? Because I love their money, but they got to pay Jalen Suggs coming up here. I love their books right now. That number is going to be interesting to me. It's
14
like
a
because he's
year?
on a track to be a better Marcus Smart, essentially.
16 a year, 14 to 16 a year.
Oh, then I'd be all in. But I think he's going to get closer to 20, 25.
I don't think he gets 25 million a year. Maybe 19, maybe
New
19,
cap,
20
baby.
with the new
Dylan
cap.
Brooks got 20.
There you
So
go.
yeah, with the new cap coming in, I think he could get 19, 21, but not 25. But yeah, I want to keep things moving here because we got a lot of teams to get to. So next up, after their win tonight, now having sole possession of the 7th seed, the Indiana Pacers. They're 34 and 26. And listen, they're starting to slowly heat up after the Siakam trade. Still just 6-4 in their last 10. Zach, you first, buying or selling this Indy squad?
I'm buying. I'm all in on Siakam. He's my guy. I'm riding with him. I think Ben Mathurin had his 34 burger that he needed desperately. And I think they're gonna allow Mathurin to get to where I think he can go, and that's all-star level. I think some guys are going to need to miss some more games in order to give him the opportunity to realize that they need to let him do what he can do, and give him some more confidence. And I mean, Halliburton and Turner missed some games, so I like what they got here. I think Halliburton's on a track where they might have the talent on the roster, but they might maybe just need a little more bench help. But yeah, I'm buying that they could be a contender by next year. If you can acquire Pascal Siakam, you can get the rest of the team built around this team.
Yeah, Pacers fans just blinked and then they opened their eyes and they have Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Ben Mathurin, like it's a pretty deep team, and I am very impressed with what they've done, not only from a roster construction, but just it's the perfect coach because Rick Carlisle was setting offensive records in Dallas. Now he's doing it in Indiana. It makes sense. But I'm gonna go contrarian here. I'm gonna sell them this
Love it.
year.
Oh no,
I
I'm
just
selling for this year too.
I
Yes.
yeah, selling for this year. Yes. I think they are obviously they're historic when it comes to offense, but I don't think they are rubbing people the right way. When I say people, I guess their opponents. And I think people are starting to target the Pacers now when they see them on the schedule. And if the Pacers see one of the top teams in the East, Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, I think they're gonna really, really be motivated to knock Indiana off their pedestal right now. So I'm selling Indiana. I'm also very high on Mathurin as a talent. I've heard some bad things when it comes to his attitude and his like want to get better, but I hope he proves me wrong. And maybe it might not work out in Indiana. Maybe he wants to be in a big market and be be more of a be more showtime there. But no, I like the talent. I like what they built. But for this season, I'm gonna sell because I don't think they play enough defense.
I just got flashbacks of Andrew Wiggins there, and actions speak louder than
Yeah.
words. Matherin's more of a
Hey,
dog already.
that's actually a really good comp. That's a really good comp for like individual talent versus like their work ability to
Hmm.
work hard and try. Yeah.
I like Mather in that draft. I think the hype with him is way too much. I had him at like 10 or 11. And I think that's about fair. You know, guys like Jalen Williams are better. Guys like Tari Eason, I'd rather take when I'm building a
Tari Eason.
contender. So yeah, points per game is not everything, my man,
It's
Zach.
not. Matherin's one of their few good defenders,
But he's not a good
and
defender.
I think he is.
He's not a good defender like
I'm a Tari stan too. I'm a
one of the
huge Tari
worst.
guy.
Like Mathurin might be a bottom 50 defender in the NBA. Bottom 30.
And a
I think
lot of
tape
it is
speaks
effort.
differently.
A lot of it is effort because he definitely has the athleticism. He has the ability to slide left and right. I'm sure Chris is looking up his advanced defensive stats right now because
They're
he
bad
is
for the
pretty
whole team.
poor. Yeah, yeah. It's a little inflated, but a lot of his advanced statistics are also by possession. And he's just not very good when it comes to that. I think what's impressive with him, and sorry, Chris, for cutting into your
No, no,
time,
no.
was
You're all good.
his shooting splits last year as a rookie was super impressive, especially to start. And I think people are enamored with that and where it can go, right, from a shooting perspective.
They're the Sacramento Kings of last year for this year.
You made me do it, Al. Matherin's been an 18th percentile defender this year.
I know the stats on them are terrible. I know it,
Per
but they're better than
EPM.
the whole team.
That's not true. Anyway, that's just not true. I mean, you want me to run
Pascal
through?
Siakam and Turner. Okay, I'm throwing them in. Like Neesmith is good too.
All right, if you sort
They're still 27th ranked defense though.
the Indiana Pacers by defensive EPM, Isaiah Jackson, Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Neesmith, and Jalen Smith all have positive DEPMs. Okay. Siakam, Turner, Toppin, McConnell, Shepard, Walker, Halliburton, and Joseph have all been better than Mathurin per defensive EPM. Joseph barely, so not doesn't even count. Doug McDermott's like one of the worst in the entire NBA. So that's definitely makes Mathurin like nowhere close to the worst defender on his own team. But
You
according to
too,
this,
baby. I've seen the signs. I believe in it.
um,
Defensive metrics.
I think you guys both have an argument though, because
we
he has the
do.
signs to be a better
And
defender.
effort is 51% of defense. So,
Yeah.
he wants it. That's great, right? But it's just about when you look at impact this season, it's actually been really bad. That doesn't mean he'll never be good. It just means we don't got to be like he's one of their best. Like, no, he's not.
Neesmith has been a steal of a contract though.
Yep, great. He's been great.
Neesmith has been good.
I'm selling the Pacers. The momentum is great right now. Like I'll buy them continuing to get better this season, but I'll sell them in the playoffs against like the top dogs in the East. I think they could beat everyone besides the top 6 seeds right now, but they're the 6 seeds. So I mean they're the 7 seeds. So I would hope so. And then going forward, I think they unnecessarily capped themselves out with the Stepien rule when it comes to the Siakam trade. So unless they move someone on their team for first round picks, they can't make another big move. They've got to now kill the smaller moves, the margin moves, everything, the draft, keep killing the draft, everything in between. I loved the Shepherd pick, and trust me, Jarris Walker continuing to develop will definitely be great for that franchise long term, whether it's as a trade piece or as an on-court asset. But I'm selling the Pacers now, and I'm selling them going forward. If they get a steal of a trade or Jarris Walker takes a huge leap, all right, totally different conversation. But until then, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm going to sell. And I'm also going to take us up the standings to our next team, the Philadelphia 76ers. They are 33-25, and they're tied for fifth place with one other team. But Philly will put them at sixth and say they're 13 games back, 3-7 in their last 10. And Joel Embiid's out for a little bit, maybe the rest of the season with that surgery. Zach, we'll start with you, my guy. Are you buying or selling the Sixers?
They're like a caked up IG model or Butterface. It's like he got all these easy moves. Daryl Morey did the easiest build of all time. It still makes it look good. And then when they get on the court and they lose their main feature, or when you realize the rest of it's just doesn't add up. And Maxey, I mean, I still love him long term. This team should be good enough, should be able to win more games than they are without Embiid. Their record's been terrible without him. Nick Nurse has kind of disappointed me since then. I'd still buy them if Embiid comes back fully healthy, but it does disappoint me. Like, I buy them as having like a 10% shot, a 5% shot. Like, that's small. But like, to not trade Tobias Harris, and he's been so bad all year, as his contract's expiring, you're not going to retain him next year. There's no way. It's bad. I mean, I don't like many of the moves they're doing. I mean, Ricky Council needs to continue to get more minutes. He's been really good. That's a lucky draft.
He should get an NBA deal. How about that?
There you go. See, he's messing up there too. Daryl Morey, the season's on him if Joel Embiid comes back and they underachieve again. But yeah, I still want to see more at Maxey like being a 1 and turning that into more wins. He's young. Give him a little more time.
Al, right to you.
I'm selling this team for this season and for long term. I just never believed. Sorry for Joel Embiid fans out there. I think he's a great individual talent. I just never believed in him to be the number one on a championship caliber team. It is what it is. I think this is his destiny as a NBA superstar, and he is a bona fide MVP, All NBA superstar. He is awesome, but it's different to be Dame Lillard versus Steph Curry. It's just different, right? There's just a little bit extra there if you want to be a 4-time champion. So, I'm just a seller on this team until they move their best player, and that's Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid can be the number one on any other team and maybe be successful, but with this construction and Philadelphia, I just don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna work. So I'm sorry, Philly fans.
I like it, man. I don't know if Embiid is long for Philadelphia, so I definitely hear you on that, and I think they might see it that way at a certain point themselves if they can't trust him to be out there. So that's kind of like, a lot of fan bases will say if someone like Embiid gets on the market, you have to give up everything for him. Well, why is someone like him getting on the market? It's because there are risks you're taking on. There's certain things that maybe Philly just can't deal with anymore. So I think buyers have to beware. I think they have to be ready to take on that risk. I think if you're going to do it, you've got to be a team that can sustain him being out for sustained periods of time in the regular season. And you got to have great infrastructure. You got to have great team doctors. Like, it's a whole thing, right? I'm with you, Al. I'm going to sell them for this year because it doesn't feel like this is the year they magically break through. It feels like Embiid's not going to break through and he's going to leave. That's the vibe I'm getting. So I'm just gonna, predict it instead of pretending that everything's gonna be okay and everyone's gonna hold hands and they're gonna win a title, and people will think Embiid's the best player in the world and all that. So I'm gonna sell. And I'm gonna
What
take. Go ahead.
What do you think is a proper build for Embiid to be the number one?
I I
AC, it was your
I I,
counter there.
I mean, I'll jump in quick and say like you need a Maxi type or a Brunson type or a someone who, Lillard, whatever you want to say, like a dynamo scoring guard who can also stagger with Embiid and let Embiid rest and initiate out there. You need switchable defensive wings. You need wings that can protect the rim weak side in case Embiid gets drawn out and can't recover in time. You need wings that are quick. I feel like the Knicks would be a great fit as a team. Brunson and Anobi. I think the Thunder could be a great fit if they want to put Chet at the 4, if they don't somehow deal him for him. But I just think there's a lot of teams that Embiid would be great on because he's a legit MVP caliber player. The thing is that the health risk, um, on top of the on court, every player has pros and cons. It just makes it a tough pill to swallow when you're giving up the farm. But I would say it's not too hard to build a great team around Embiid. It's you just got to keep pushing at it like the Nuggets did with Jokic. Keep keep ramming your head through that door until you break through.
Fun fact, Kyle Lowry has played 2 games and has more charges drawn than Tobias Harris in his 5-year career.
I
That's
saw that.
hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. It's so crazy.
That's hilarious.
The
Well,
fact that Kyle Lowry, though, the fact that Lowry is getting a lot of minutes with this team just goes to show you this team is done.
says
Like
a
it's over
lot.
for this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over.
So yeah, speaking of Kyle Lowry, let's talk about who the Sixers are tied with in the standings. None other than the Miami Heat. For Miami, 33 and 25, squarely in the hunt for a top 4 seed. They're just 1.5 games behind the 4 seeded Knicks, and the Heat are 8-2 in their last 10. They're on a 5-game win streak. That's not too shabby. Where are you guys at with Miami?
I'm all in. I really am. I think this is the best Jimmy Butler team they've had. Not Jimmy Butler might not be at his best yet, but I think he'll get back there come playoff time. I think Bam's the best he's been. Yeah, this is the best supporting cast they've had. If Tyler Hero can stay healthy, I think for what the Miami Heat are for being a Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo led team, this is probably going to be as good as it gets because they're not that aggressive for stars. So we've seen what they can do with a team that's less than this. Yeah, I think they got a great chance, and Jovic is starting to play. Maybe he means something in the playoffs and takes Kevin Love's minutes even more come playoff time. Then I would just buy the shit out of this team even more.
I agree that this is Jimmy Butler's best Miami team. And I also agree this is not going to be the best version of Jimmy Butler. I mean, he is older. He's gone through a lot of deep playoff runs. It makes sense, but that's the whole point of building a team around him. I think you mentioned it. Jovic is coming around. He's improving. I think Terry Rozier is also just around the corner and playing and
Gelling,
gonna be
yeah,
able to play.
starting to
Yeah,
gel.
playing that
He's missed a
style.
lot of games though.
And yeah, this is like the typical Miami Heat, right? They like don't do anything for the first 2 to 3 months. The All-Star break hits, and it's almost playoff time, and then they ramp it up, right? Coach Spo ramps it up. The players ramp it up. I think Jimmy Butler on Instagram just posted like it's time. Like this is their whole mantra for the last 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 iterations of the Miami Heat. So it all makes sense to me. Are they good enough? Are they good enough to beat the Celtics again, the Bucks again? Like it, I don't know, because that
The
was a
Bucks, yes.
magical run last year. Yeah, a magical run last year. Their role players were shooting threes out the wazoo, and I don't think that type of efficiency is going to happen again. So I'm going to sell on Miami this year, but I think they're building something just like they were a couple years ago. So they'll be a contender for a top 4 seed for the next 2 to 3 years.
Duncan Robinson, 47 from 3 in the 21 games he starts, 16-5. They didn't really have him
Oh,
in the
he's been
playoffs
playing
last
great.
year. Jaime
No
Jaquez,
question. He's been playing great.
yeah, they need Terry though to be fully maxed out to be peak Terry.
Well, Terry's been talking about how, he'll play the dunker spot if he needs to. He just
Are you
wants to
serious?
he just wants to
Yeah.
contribute and win and finally be on a winning team. So you got to respect that. You got to love that for that reason, that grit that they have. Jaquez, the rookie, like this team is really well positioned, the experienced rookie. This team is really well positioned to go on another deep run, right? It all depends on how the playoff bracket shakes out, but I could see them getting knocked out by the Knicks in the first round. I could see them upsetting the Knicks for a second year in a row, or maybe, last year, not so much of an upset, but they were the favorites. But, beating the Knicks a second year in a row. And then all of a sudden they play the Cavaliers in round 2 and beat them. And all of a sudden they get the Bucks or the Celtics in the conference finals. And you've got another season where the Heat are in the Final Four or in the finals. Just like that. I like Rozier as a pickup for them. I love their roster this year. Like you said, Zach, it's one of the better teams, if not the best team they've had with Jimmy there. And Jimmy, in like a down year, is averaging some crazy stuff, like 23, 6, and 4 on like 63% true shooting. I forget exactly what it is.
We think it's a down year because of his record, though. Let's be honest. The stats are there, obviously.
I mean, he's also not the defensive monster he has been in the last
it's
couple years.
21 and a half, 5.5, and 4.7, and 2 stocks a game, like 1.8 stocks a game. So yeah, statistically, it's a down year for Jimmy. Usually he averages more steals and more assists than he is this year. If you remember 2021 in Miami, he averaged 7 assists a game. So this is a little bit of a down year for him statistically. The points nor the assists are there. The steals are down. The activity's down from him. He's aging a little bit, but he's still really, really good. He's still an elite basketball player. And this Miami team is really well positioned for a strong run this year. That being said, true contender lens, I don't know if they can tango with some of these really tough teams in the West, like Denver or the Clippers. I would love to see Heat Warriors, but that just feels like
Warriors.
that would be wouldn't that be super fun? But I don't
There's
know.
a
Warriors gotta
pick.
think about the lottery.
But
Ooh,
oh,
you should have listened to us last
you
night.
should have been on the West episode. Well then, listen, I'm gonna sell the Heat this season. I'm gonna say
One final point,
go
Chris.
for it.
Yeah, one final point. I think they're pretty entrenched in the 4 or 5 spot,
I was
which
gonna
means
ask.
they're gonna face Boston second round. And I don't think they're gonna beat Boston. I think that's
So
that to
yeah,
me is my
that
Where
to
do you think
you
they
know,
finish, Chris?
I think Miami can finish strong, but I don't know that they'll be super dialed into trying to finish that strong. They'll probably finish at like 5 or 6, and um yeah, I'm selling them this year. I think next year is going to be that big run from them. But I'll be quick and just say I'm selling them this season. Let's go up in the standings one more time to the New York Knicks, 35-24, just like Philly. They're 3-7 in their last 10. This is a Knicks team that made some big acquisitions before the deadline, but also has had some big losses, injury related. Zach, again, is of course starting with you, buying or selling New York.
Man, I was buying them for a while there, to be honest. I thought they had a slight chance to rattle the Celtics a little bit, but these injuries are scaring me. They need to be fully healthy. I'm selling them for this year at the moment, until I see them back full strength. Long term, I think they're getting close. I think they're getting close. I think other teams are going to get better, though. There's going to be higher ceilings on other teams by next year. So with that said, Knicks are going to need to get a little better too. I I think the front office is doing great, and I think they will have an opportunity to go out and get somebody pretty solid this year. Wouldn't shock me. I mean, if they got Joel Embiid, which I think there's definitely a chance for that. So I'm buying they have the pieces to become a true contender, if they don't have it right now. Selling this year, buying long term.
Al, what about you?
Yeah, I would say this even if Chris wasn't on the pod. This is the buy low team in the NBA right now. I know the narrative is bad. I know the vibes are bad, but this is almost a blessing in disguise. Julius Randle will be back. OG will be back, and they're going to be fresh for a playoff run. They need to make sure they have home court, though. So they have to have fourth seed, in my opinion, because it's hard for any team in the playoffs to go to the Garden and try to win in that atmosphere. So if they finish fourth, and they have to do a lot of work right now to finish fourth, I like this team, man, and I think they do have an outside chance to upset Boston in round 2. I think they're that good when healthy. So I'm buying on this team because it's a great buy low spot, and then I'm definitely buying on them long term because we've seen this now for the last 3 or 4 years. They're just slowly ramping up instead of trying to cut that timeline short and maybe making a mistake here or there. They're not doing that. They're just slowly, and maybe it's unintentional too, right? Maybe they did swing and miss on some big trades, but now they're in a position where they can really go for it for the next year or two. And I like this team long term. So buy short term and buy long term.
Al, I said on the show last night, the two teams best positioned for the future in the NBA are the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks, because both teams are really good right now. Both teams have all their own first round picks and a surplus from other teams. And both teams have a coach that's good. Like, these are two teams that are good right now and can get a lot better going forward. They're such easy buy for the future teams. I would sell the Thunder this year like I did in yesterday's episode, but I'm going to be right with you and buy the Knicks for this year because we haven't seen them healthy with this new look squad, because we haven't seen Bogdanovich playing on a Knicks squad that includes Randall or Anunoby. I think it's going to be vastly different when you have that kind of forward depth on a team that features Jalen Brunson, who everyone says is a big problem that he's small. Well, now they've got plenty of size to throw at opposing teams. So for me personally, this is an easy call. You buy low on the Knicks, just like Al said. It's probably one of the best, if not the best, buy low opportunities in the NBA. And if we're talking serious contenders, it's probably the best buy low opportunity. I'm going to buy the Knicks at 35 and 24.
Real quickly, I've asked Kris this before, but AC, what percentage do you give the Knicks to take down Boston or come out of the East? The Knicks.
I think I think that's a correlated question, because if they take down Boston, I think they do get out of the East.
Right.
I think that's how good they are. So Boston is kind of their Mount Rushmore, if you or what's that big mountain?
Everest.
Yeah,
the big
Mount
test.
Everest.
Let's go climb Rushmore, boys.
I would say the series length is going to be set at 5.5 games with the juice to the over. So I would take the over there. I think it would go 6. And if it goes 7, anything can happen in a game 7. I think it goes 6. So that's how, I don't know what percentage there, 40, 60, 41, 59, whatever the case is, but I think it does go 6, and in a team that's fully healthy though.
That's real belief. And Kris, your boys are dead last in defensive rating over the last 10 games. What say you?
When you've got 40%, when you got 60%, no Mitchell Robinson, no OG Anunoby.
Yeah, no Mitch
You've been
either.
talking about Hartenstein. They've been just fine with Hartenstein.
And Hartenstein's the best backup center in the NBA. The problem is he's been starting.
You take 3 starters off any team.
That's the last 10 games. They were good on defense before that.
Where was Robinson?
He's been gone basically the whole year.
So Hartenstein was great. But when Anunoby and Robinson are gone, there's the problem. So you just proved my point.
Mainly just Anunoby right now.
Listen, 38 to 40% chance to beat Boston. That's where I'm at. I'll go.
So you're basically identical.
I'll go 39. I'll go 39. All right. We got 3 teams left. Let's knock them out at 38 and 21. A big jump there. 8.5 games back. The Milwaukee Bucks are 5-5 in their last 10. They are 14 and 14 on the road, 24 and 7 at home. Zach, you buying or selling?
I'm buying. I think they have what it takes. I need to see more Gallinari here, like I've been saying. I think he could be a difference maker for him, which is kind of crazy. He hasn't done shit for a while, but I think he's a piece they kind of need. But I think they have the talent. Their defense is getting better. I'm definitely not like picking them to win the East because Doc Rivers, nor do I am really confident in this buy, but I'm buying they're actually a contender. But Doc Rivers is the factor here. I'm selling them long term because of Doc Rivers. But buying this year that they're a contender for right now. I think there's a great chance Dame and Giannis are both gone by next year. I hope not. I think it could work out and could be fun, but I mean, it hasn't been that fun this year. It hasn't been that fun yet. And we're 56, 59, I think, games into it. It seems about right.
What's the health outlook of
They,
Chris Middleton?
they have played 59, yes.
What's
Not
Middleton's
good.
health outlook?
Yes.
Oh, it's not
Not
good.
good. Well, let me
Not
bring it
good.
up here. Talk a little
Yeah, I
bit,
mean,
Chris.
if he's gonna come back late March, early April, like the Knicks guys, I think it's gonna be a pretty good win there because that's like an acquisition, a trade acquisition that they're picking up. I was very, very bullish on Dame heading into the All-Star weekend because I think the narrative around him on and off the court was so negative. He needed a weekend like that to really show out and remind people like he's still one of the best players in NBA, one of the best shooters who's ever lived, and he is cold. So I think I'm gonna buy this team because, in my
Love it.
opinion, I think Giannis is still the best player in the East. And I think Dame is the best number two in the East. And I think if you're brilliant at basketball, you're going to find a way to figure it out and make it work. Yes, Doc Rivers is a big roadblock. Yes, the fact that they don't play any defense is a big roadblock. But if you have those two, I'm gonna go to war with them right now. So I'm gonna buy them. They still have, even though they've won what 3 or 4 straight since the All-Star game, they still have negative vibes around them, and they're
Three,
number
three,
3 in the
three
East.
game
Like,
win streak.
yeah, they're number 3 in the East, guys. If that's bad, then what is good for them? Good for them would be the
All
title. So I'm gonna buy.
Hey,
right.
Chris Middleton supposed to be back next week.
There,
So
there you go. I mean, I did watch the game where he, landed on Katie's foot, and I knew that was gonna be like a 2, 3 weeker for him.
they definitely need him in the second round, probably. For sure, the conference finals. Second
Yeah.
round, maybe need him.
They'll have him. I think the Bucks, like early in the season, they were struggling. I thought people should be patient, wait on them. Now this ruckus with the coach is happening. Um, I think two things can be true. Doc Rivers isn't as bad as people are saying for this team. Like, I think he'll be better for this team than people are saying. I don't think you completely abandon this team because of Doc Rivers. But I think any team that has a coaching situation like this unfold mid-season in their first season with their superstar pairing is just not a team you bet hard-earned dollars on. So this show, we're betting our reputation. It's a little different than money, but I can't do it with this Bucks team just this year. Maybe next year they'll be the most dominant force in the NBA, right? But this season is not the year with all this head coach hubbub going on. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bait myself into doing it. I'm not going to guilt myself into whatever you want to say. I'm just not doing it. I'm selling the Milwaukee Bucks. That's an easy one for me, not because I think Rivers is some like basketball antichrist. I just think that it's not the year for any of this with
I respect that.
serious contending windows.
It's
Guys,
just it's just as much Dame though. You coming out and hating on the city and calling it a lonely place, and it's
the vibes aren't
writing's
there
on his
this
He's
year.
wall. He
he's
wants to
he's
be.
he's in a sunken place mentally too. So he's gonna say stuff. It is what it is.
The vibes aren't great. But guys, we've got just two teams left, so the vibes are great here. Forget Milwaukee, forget Wisconsin. 38-19, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they're really good recently, 7-3 in their last 10. They're on a 2-game win streak. They're 7.5 games back of that first seed. They're closer than anybody else now, and Boston's still running away with it. But for Cleveland, guys, where are you at on this team?
Put a bow on them. They're toast. I mean, choking in double OT to the Bulls. Mitchell struggling late. Come on, you can't lose to the Bulls. I'm just kidding. But it's one of 82. And man, Mobley's starting to have more consistent, bigger games. And if he keeps coming along and showing more of the signs he is, that team is got the goods. It's just, is he going to do this come playoff time and allow Dame and Garland to be who they are as well? Garland's the piece that I'm most concerned about. I'm not sure he's going to give them enough production come playoff time. I like their pieces. I think Okoro's defense has been a huge asset to this team and a huge um, just revelation. I mean, something that nobody was really expecting to come out at this point in time. And you had Strus Niang, Dean Wade, even they're deep. They're very deep. I think people, especially you guys, I mean, favor the Knicks a lot more. And I think these guys, talent wise, are just as good. I think the Knicks are better coached, probably. I'd lean that way. I believe the structure of the Knicks is more consistent, the Heat more consistent. I believe in that come playoff time, but I think the Cavs have the goods. It's just putting it. So it's kind of like the Timberwolves, Kris, like I was talking about last night. Perfect example is like they're winning in the regular season with talent. I just can't buy them in the playoffs until I see it for 2 rounds. And so for that, I'm out. Sorry, I'm selling. Long term, I'm selling too because if you lose Donovan Mitchell, you're toast. But doubt they get a player back. I think it'd be more picks for him. Maybe I'm wrong, and I could quick flip the switch on that. But yeah, I'm selling both short and long term, unfortunately, because I love watching this team when they peak, but it doesn't happen often.
They're
Man, that
super
was like
talented.
that was a roller coaster,
Yeah, I
Zach,
thought
because they're
you
good.
I
I
just talked my way
swore.
through that.
You like their goods, but you're gonna sell them. Which I mean, I get it.
I
I'll keep
swore he
this
was
really
gonna
short.
buy.
I
Yeah,
love the
Yeah, I'll
individuals,
keep this
boys.
really
I love
short.
the individuals.
If the Knicks are a great buy low candidate, the Cavs are a great sell high candidate. They went on a 17-1 run, right before the All-Star break, and now they've lost four out of the last 6 games. They peaked too early, in my opinion. They're a good team. They have a lot of great pieces. But Mitchell is not going to stay there for a long term. Everybody knows that. The young guys haven't proved anything in the playoffs yet. Everybody knows that. And I think they have to split up Mobley and Jared Allen. Allen's a great piece, an all-star. Mobley's up and coming, but I think people are like, well, if he is gonna ever reach his potential, maybe Allen can't be there. So I'm just gonna sell this team long term. They might win the first round. I don't think they're gonna win the second round. I don't think they're gonna go any far. So the whole conversation is about contender, the lens of a contender, and I don't think they are. So sell.
Real quick, call me crazy. I think it's Mitchell Garland that takes away from Mobley more than uh, Jared Allen, but I could be right or wrong on that. Well, time will tell.
Allen's a good passer. Allen's a really versatile big man offensively, so I respect him. Um, he's actually like really good. So I'm not going to be like he's the problem. I think they just got to figure that out because you can't need the perfect fit to be good. So I'll put it that way. But basically for me with Cleveland, man, this is a team where everything on paper looks like you should be buying them right now. Everything looks like, hey, okay, maybe a little slump after the big streak, but all in all, great stretch of play for them. This team is motivated, and Strus, the big addition in the offseason, is getting really, really good again, like he was at the start of the season. Everything's going well for them, blah, blah, blah. This is a team that got gentlemen swept by the Knicks in the first round last year. They just got so
They did.
outdone. And the mental aspect of it, like you said, we know Donovan Mitchell is not long for Cleveland for this team. We know he doesn't want to be there long term. I think he should stay. I think he's been fantastic. I think he should stay
Agreed.
and continue to grow with this young core, but apparently that's not what he's interested in, and I can see him wanting to be a net and just hang out with McCall and make their own podcast because Brunson and Hart got one now. And all the Nets fans are mad that McCall was going on it and being like, yeah, MSG is more lit than Barkley's. So that was funny. But for me with it, I think I can see Mitchell going to Brooklyn. I can see Mitchell going to Atlanta. If in a 3-team Trae Young deal or something. Like I don't know what happens, man.
Gross.
I don't know what happens, but it'll be something nasty. I'm going to sell Cleveland now and going forward. It stinks because everything's just starting to come together for them. Strus is such an awesome ad. He's a good passer, low key playmaker from the wing sometimes. And Okoro hitting 40% of his threes and bringing good defense. Like, yo, this guy's legit now. So this is all going really nicely for them, except not where it counts. Donovan Mitchell, when he starts looking at the exit tunnel more so than the Larry OB, it's not going to go well. So to make this quick, I'm selling Cleveland now and going forward, even though I really wish I didn't have to. They should stay together and keep building. They'd be really dangerous.
Who's getting cut minutes come playoff time? That's my big question, because their depth is their strength. Sam Merrill, Max Strus, George Niang, like it goes on. Okoro, Craig Porter even has had great moments.
Last year against the Knicks in that first round, coach decided not to play Okoro. That was the mistake. I don't think he's going to make the mistake this year, so I don't think it'll be Okoro. It'll be someone else.
He's so much better this year, though.
I love Craig Porter Jr. He will not be in the playoff rotation. Dean Wade, someone who might get like 9 or 7 minutes a game, nothing serious in the playoffs. And you take a look at like Niang might play like 15 a game. Merrill probably just won't play.
They have to. I think you're right though. I think the right thought process. I think the 9 minutes wise goes down to Merrill and Dean Wade there. I think Dean Wade gets out. I mean, it comes down to who's shooting well. I think they have enough defense from all the guys above.
Right.
I think they have to stay 9 though, and whoever go with the hot hand shooting wise.
All right. Well, we got one team left. We'll talk about Cleveland in depth, at length as the season goes on. But I want to get to our final team, clearly the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And they're just so good, winning almost 80% of their games, 46-12. The Boston Celtics, 27-3 at home, 9-1 in their last 10. This should be easy for everyone. Zach, where are you at?
They're kissing each other, man. They're kissing. That says everything. Porzingis kissing Derek White. Oh, it's a beautiful sight. I mean, yeah, I'm into it. The love is there. This team is all in, and I think this is Jason Tatum's best chance he's ever had. Jaylen Brown's best chance. Jalen's on a heater right now. Just has to transition to the playoffs.
Jaylen Brown was spectacular against the Knicks. He has been on a good run recently. Just keeping it simple, attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line.
I mean, they're beating teams by 10.5 points. They're 46-12. They're basically unbeatable at home. It took them a month to finally lose a home game. Everything about this team points like you should buy them. I just can't get there with Porzingis yet. I just can't. I think he's a great piece. I think he's a good addition to a regular season team, but I think a good defensive coach is going to be able to figure him out, in my opinion. This is potentially Jason Tatum's best opportunity. I thought it was the finals run against the Warriors. I thought they should have beaten them, but I'm gonna go out on the limb. I'm not trying to be contrarian. I think I'm gonna buy them this year, sell them long term.
So do you think the Knicks and the Bucks and maybe the Heat have a better chance? Are you picking those teams over the Celtics coming out of the East this year?
I just like I mean, it's tough because they're better than all those teams in the East. Like I don't think there's an argument there, and I'm not gonna make an argument for New York or Milwaukee. But I think going to win 4 rounds with, I'm just gonna say I don't believe in Porzingis right now, man. Like I just have to see him as a championship caliber center. Yeah,
it's fair.
Like I don't think they can beat Denver full strength in a 7-game series.
Love it.
That's totally fair. I think Porzingis was a borderline all-star leading into the all-star weekend. I think he's been such a stud this season, maybe a top 25 player in the NBA this season. Will that continue into the playoffs? Will he be a top 25 player in the playoffs? Al, I think you're onto something. I don't think he has that same impact, but I do think you're taking it a step too far. Boston is still really good. Drew Holiday's basically the power forward, and that's
Yeah.
freaking awesome because the way that allows them to operate with Brown and Tatum on the wings is so much fun for everyone to watch. They're going to be a beast in the playoffs. They're so versatile when it comes to the different matchups they can throw at teams, different looks they can throw at teams. I am afraid for this team's health and depth. I really don't know where that's going to lead them, trusting Horford and Porzingis to shore up their front court minutes, but they did get Xavier Tillman Sr. That's something for them, right? That's something. Um, I'm going to buy this Celtics team for this season. I like selling them going forward, but I'm going to make the point that that doesn't even matter if they win the chip this season. So buy them this season to go make a title run. Yeah.
Somebody on Zach Lowe's pod, I forget who it was, said Derek White's their most valuable player, and
that agenda. It was Aaron Gordon last year. This year it's Derek White. We know what's going on. Al, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I like Boston a lot, but let's just think of a couple matchups in the finals that are super unsexy, right? Let's just say OKC does something and they get all the way to the finals in the West.
OKC, Miami, or OKC,
I don't
Indiana.
think those are unsexy.
No, Boston. No, Boston in the East and then some unsexy team in the West, right? And I'm gonna start with OKC. I'd rather have Shea closing games than anybody in Boston.
We haven't
Let's say
seen Shea in the
Minnesota
playoffs.
somehow. Let's
being
say
the number
somehow
one.
Minnesota gets the finals. I'd rather have Anthony Edwards closing games than anybody on Boston. Let's say the Clippers get to the playoffs. I'd rather have Kawhi closing games over anyone in Boston. I think Boston's a great front running team and they're beating teams by double digits. But when it comes down to the fourth quarter, do you remember a Jason Tatum game winner? Because I don't.
Dude, he's had a 50 burger. He's had a lot of big games. You only need to be
Do you
great.
remember a playoff game winner from Jason Tatum?
I was going to say I can give you a regular season
Very
one
few great players
Madison
have those
Square
game
Garden.
winners in the playoffs. Not every single one.
It's a cheap shot argument against Tatum, but Al, to your credit, if you go look at his 3-point percentage in the final 2 minutes of games that are close, it's legitimately like 8%. It's some absolute bullshit. So
most
for me,
are.
a lot of expectations on Tatum. I think he's been good this year. I think he needs to be great to really impress people, whether that's fair or not is one thing, but I love the take about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is so freaking good. I said for a very long time he has top 5 in the NBA potential. So I'm really glad that it's playing out right now and people are seeing it. Guys, we just went through the top 10 seeds in the Eastern Conference. Another absolutely killer episode here on All Things NBA from A to Z, presented by Ballislife. We're going to be back with y'all. I know you probably want us to talk more NBA basketball, but we're going to end today's episode here and be back with y'all. Stay tuned for more releases from us. Subscribe on YouTube, put on post notifications or put on notifications on Apple or Spotify to make sure you don't miss an episode. For Albert Nguyen and Zach Noble, I'm KP saying so long. Thanks so much for tuning in. Peace out, y'all.